The lawyer's voice echoed through the marble conference room like a death sentence. And to my son, Harrison Whitmore III, I leave the sum of $1. Harrison shot to his feet, his face purple with rage. What? To my daughter, Victoria Whitmore Kane, I leave the sum of $1. This is insane. Victoria shrieked, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the mahogany table. Daddy can't do this. He was senile. This will is invalid. The lawyer, a distinguished man named Robert Chen who'd served the Whitmore family for 30 years, looked up from the document with an expression of carefully controlled neutrality. Mr. Whitmore was of completely sound mind when he drafted this will 3 months ago. I have medical documentation to that effect. May I continue? The room fell into a hostile silence. 20 pairs of eyes glared at the lawyer, children, grandchildren, cousins, all of them wearing designer suits and diamond jewelry, all of them calculating what they were about to lose. And in the back corner, sitting in a folding chair because there hadn't been enough seats at the actual table, was me, Claudette Johnson, 53 years old, the Whitmore family housekeeper for the past 27 years. I was wearing my cleaning uniform because I'd come straight from work. My hands were rough from bleach and scrubbing. My shoes were sensible flats, not designer heels. And I was wondering why on earth Mr. Whitmore's lawyer had insisted I attend this reading. Please continue, Harrison growled through clenched teeth. Robert cleared his throat. To the rest of my family, my nephews, nieces, cousins, and their various offspring, I leave a collective sum of $500,000 to be divided equally among you. Gasps. Outraged muttering. 500,000 split 20 ways was nothing to these people. The remainder of my estate, Robert continued, his voice growing stronger, including all properties, investments, businesses, and liquid assets, totaling approximately $2.4 billion, I leave in its entirety to Miss Claudette Marie Johnson. The room exploded. People were screaming. Victoria fainted. Actually fainted. Or at least pretended to. Harrison was shouting something about lawsuits and fraud. Cousins were crying. Someone threw a crystal water glass that shattered against the wall. And I sat frozen in my folding chair in the back, my heart hammering, my mind unable to process what I'd just heard. $2.4 billion. To me, the maid. There must be some mistake, I whispered. But no one heard me over the chaos. Robert raised his voice. There is one final provision. Somehow, his commanding tone cut through the noise. Everyone fell silent, waiting. Mr. Whitmore recorded a video message to be played at this reading. It explains his decision. If you'll direct your attention to the screen. I don't need to see some senile old man's rambling justification, Harrison spat. This will is invalid and we're going to. The video also contains information about each of you, Robert said calmly. Information Mr. Whitmore spent the last 2 years of his life documenting. Information he was prepared to make public if this will was contested. I strongly suggest you watch. The threat hung in the air. Everyone slowly sank back into their seats. The lights dimmed. A projector hummed to life. And on the screen appeared the face of the man I'd served for 27 years. Jonathan Whitmore, 81 years old. Steel gray hair. Sharp blue eyes that had seen everything. The self-made billionaire who'd built an empire from nothing and was about to tear his family apart from beyond the grave. If you're watching this, his recorded voice said, then I'm dead. And you're all very, very angry. Good. Let me tell you why you're not getting a damn cent of my money. And let me tell you why Claudette deserves every penny. My breath caught in my throat as his eyes seemed to look directly at me through the screen. This is the story of how my family forgot what it means to be human. And how one woman reminded me. If you want to see the most shocking inheritance story ever told, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications because this 45-minute journey will leave you speechless. Comment what city you're watching from and whether you think Claudette deserves this inheritance. Family, you are not ready for this story. Let's go. Let me take you back to where it all started. To understand this story, you need to understand how I ended up in that conference room. My name is Claudette Johnson, and I was born in 1970 in New Orleans, Louisiana. My mama worked 3 jobs to raise me and my 2 brothers after my daddy died in a construction accident when I was 6. She cleaned houses during the day, worked at a diner at night, and did laundry on weekends. Education is your way out, she told me constantly. You get yourself an education, baby girl, and you won't have to break your back like I do. I listened. I studied hard. I graduated high school with honors. I got a scholarship to Dillard University, a historically black university in New Orleans. I was going to be a teacher. I was going to make my mama proud. And then Hurricane Katrina hit. August 2005. The levees broke. Our neighborhood flooded. We lost everything. Our home, my mama's savings, my scholarship money, all of it, gone underwater. We evacuated to Houston. My mama and brothers stayed with distant cousins. I tried to find work, any work, to help support the family. But Houston was flooded with evacuees just like us, all competing for the same jobs. That's when I saw an ad in the paper. Housekeeper wanted for private estate. Live-in position. Competitive salary. Experience preferred. I had no experience, but I was desperate. The estate was in River Oaks, the richest neighborhood in Houston. The Whitmore mansion sat on 5 acres, a massive white colonial with columns that made it look like something out of Gone with the Wind. I almost didn't go to the interview. Almost turned around at the gate. Because places like this weren't for people like me. Not as residents, only as help. But I thought about my mama working 3 jobs. About my brothers who needed to finish school. About the teaching career I'd lost to a hurricane. So I rang the bell. The woman who answered wasn't what I expected. She was maybe 40, wearing jeans and a cardigan, with kind eyes and a warm smile. You must be Claudette. I'm Margaret Whitmore. Please, come in. She didn't interview me in the kitchen or the service entrance. She brought me to the sitting room, offered me tea, asked about my life, my family, what had happened in New Orleans. I don't have much experience with housekeeping, I admitted, but I'm a hard worker. I learn fast, and I really need this job. Can you cook? Margaret asked. Yes, ma'am. My mama taught me. Creole cooking, mostly. Can you manage a household? Organize schedules, coordinate staff, handle unexpected situations? I managed my mama's household budget from the time I was 12. Coordinated family events. Handled crises. I paused. I was studying to be a teacher before Katrina. I'm good with people, good with organization. Margaret smiled. Then you're overqualified. When can you start? Just like that. No questions about references I didn't have. No concerns about my lack of formal experience. She saw something in me that day. Potential, maybe, or just desperation that mirrored her own need for help. I started the next week. Drop a like if you're already invested in Claudette's story. Comment New Orleans if you remember Katrina. Subscribe because this is just the beginning. The Whitmore mansion was overwhelming at first. 12 bedrooms, 15 bathrooms, a ballroom, a library, a wine cellar that was bigger than my mama's entire house had been. But Margaret made it manageable. She trained me herself, working alongside me those first few months. We don't stand on ceremony here, she told me. My husband built his fortune from nothing. We're not old money pretending to be royalty. We're just people who happen to have a big house. Jonathan Whitmore had made his billions in oil and gas, starting as a roughneck on an offshore rig and eventually building an empire. He was gruff, direct, and intimidating when I first met him. So you're the new housekeeper, he said, looking me up and down. Margaret says you're smart. Are you? Yes, sir, I said, meeting his eyes. My mama had taught me that much. Never look away first. He laughed. Good. I can't stand people who apologize for breathing. You do your job well. We'll get along fine. And we did. The Whitmore children were a different story. Harrison was 30 years old then, already working in his father's company, already entitled and insufferable. He treated me like furniture that occasionally moved. Victoria was 27, married to a banker named Richard Kane, and obsessed with social status. She measured her worth by her jewelry collection and her husband's portfolio. Both of them had grown up wealthy. Neither of them remembered what it was like to struggle. Claudette? Victoria would snap her fingers at me like I was a dog. Claudette, bring me my purse. Claudette, call my car. Claudette, tell Cook I want my lunch earlier. Never please. Never thank you. Just commands. Margaret saw it and apologized constantly. I'm sorry, Claudette. I raised them better than this, I swear. Somewhere along the way, they forgot their manners. It's all right, Mrs. Whitmore. I've dealt with worse. And I had. But it still stung. Being invisible. Being treated like you don't matter. Like you're not a whole person with dreams and feelings and dignity. I was just the maid. Subscribe if you know what it feels like to be invisible. Comment if you've ever been treated like just the help. This story is about to show you why kindness matters. Margaret Whitmore was different from her children. She remembered where she came from, a middle-class neighborhood in Dallas, a schoolteacher's daughter who'd fallen in love with an ambitious young oil worker. She'd lived in a trailer park with Jonathan while he built his first drilling company. She'd packed his lunches and balanced their checkbook when they had more bills than money. She never forgot those days. "Come sit with me, Claudette," she'd say when she found me cleaning the library. "Take a break. Tell me about New Orleans." At first, I was uncomfortable. Employers didn't sit and chat with the help. But Margaret insisted. "You miss it," she observed one day. "You're home. Every day," I admitted. "The food, the music, the way the air feels before rain. But mostly I miss my mama. My brothers. They're still in Houston, but I only see them on my days off." "Bring them here," Margaret said suddenly. "For Thanksgiving. Bring your whole family. We have plenty of room." "Mrs. Whitmore, I couldn't." "You could and you will. I insist. I want to meet the woman who raised someone as strong as you." That Thanksgiving changed everything. My mama came to the mansion, nervous and uncomfortable in her church dress. My brothers, Marcus and Jerome, both teenagers, were wide-eyed at the size of the place. But Margaret greeted my mama like an equal, hugged her, thanked her for raising such a wonderful woman. Jonathan shook my brothers' hands, asked them about school, offered to help with college applications. And for one day, we weren't staff and employers. We were just two families sharing a meal. Victoria and Harrison didn't join us. They'd gone to Richard's family estate, where there would be more appropriate company. Margaret noticed their absence, said nothing, but I saw the hurt in her eyes. Over the next few years, Margaret and I became friends. Real friends. She told me about her disappointment in her children, how money had ruined them. I told her about my dreams of going back to school, of still wanting to teach someday. "Then do it," she said. "Take online classes. I'll adjust your schedule. Use the library here for studying." "Mrs. Whitmore, I can't afford." "I'll pay for it. Consider it an investment in someone who deserves it." "I can't accept that." "Claudette." She took my hands. "I have more money than I'll ever spend. And children who don't appreciate anything I've given them. Let me do this for someone who will." So I enrolled in online courses, slowly, over years, working toward my teaching degree. Margaret helped me study, quizzed me for exams, celebrated every class I passed. Jonathan noticed. "Margaret says you're going to be a teacher." "Yes, sir. Eventually." "Good. Education is the only thing that can't be taken away from you. Everything else, money, property, status, it can all disappear. But what you know, what you've learned, that's yours forever." I didn't know it then, but he was speaking from experience, preparing me for what was to come. If Margaret's kindness is touching your heart, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment saying Margaret if you wish more people treated others with respect. Keep watching. This is about to get emotional. In 2012, Margaret was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 4, inoperable. The doctors gave her 6 months. She lasted 8, fighting every day with grace and dignity. I took care of her, not because it was my job, but because she was my friend. I held her hand during chemo. I read to her when she was too weak to hold a book. I sat with her in the quiet hours of the morning when the pain was worst and she couldn't sleep. "I'm glad you're here," she whispered one night. "Harrison and Victoria visit out of obligation. But you're here because you care." "I do care. You changed my life, Mrs. Whitmore." "Margaret, please. After all this time, call me Margaret." "Margaret." It felt strange on my tongue. Intimate. She smiled. "That's better. And Claudette? When I'm gone, look after Jonathan. He acts tough, but he's going to be lost without me. He'll need someone who sees him as a person, not as a wallet." "Of course. And don't let Harrison and Victoria push you around. You're worth 10 of them, and I should know. I raised them." She died on a Tuesday morning in March, with Jonathan holding one hand and me holding the other. The funeral was massive. Hundreds of people who'd known her. Many who'd benefited from her quiet charity work, her generosity, her kindness. Harrison and Victoria put on a show of grief. Designer black clothes. Practiced tears. But the moment the service ended, they were back to their phones, their social calendars, their lives. Jonathan fell apart. This man who'd commanded boardrooms and built a billion-dollar empire crumbled. He stopped going to the office, stopped eating properly, wandered the house like a ghost, talking to Margaret as if she were still there. "Mr. Whitmore," I said gently one evening, finding him in Margaret's sitting room. You need to eat something. She's really gone, he said, as if just realizing it. 53 years of marriage, and she's just gone. I know. I miss her too. He looked at me, really looked at me, for maybe the first time since I'd started working there. You were good to her. At the end, when Harrison and Victoria couldn't be bothered to spend more than 20 minutes at a time with their dying mother, you were there. She was my friend. She was. And she loved you like the daughter she wished she'd raised. He paused. Thank you for that. For being what they couldn't be. From that day forward, something changed in how Jonathan treated me. Not employer to employee, but two people who'd lost someone they both loved. And slowly, he began to rely on me for more than just housekeeping. Comment RIP Margaret if this scene hit you hard. Subscribe because Jonathan's story is about to reveal something shocking about his family. Don't go anywhere. With Margaret gone, the true nature of the Whitmore children became impossible to ignore. Harrison took over as CEO of Whitmore Energy. Within a year, he'd nearly run the company into the ground. Reckless investments, failed ventures, millions lost because he thought he was smarter than his father's experienced advisors. He's going to destroy everything I built, Jonathan told me one evening. We'd fallen into a routine. He'd have dinner, and I'd sit with him while he ate, keeping him company. But he's my son. I can't just... He trailed off, frustrated and heartbroken. Have you talked to him about it? Talked? I've shouted, pleaded, threatened. He doesn't listen. Thinks he knows better. Thinks being my son makes him a business genius. Victoria was worse in her own way. After Margaret's death, she came around more often, but only to ask for money. New cars, vacation homes, jewelry. Always wanting, never satisfied. Daddy, Richard and I are looking at a yacht. I'll need about $3 million. What happened to the $2 million I gave you last month? That was for the ski chalet in Aspen. This is different. Jonathan would write the check. Not because he wanted to, but because she was his daughter. Because he hoped that maybe, somehow, money would fill the hole where her character should have been. It never did. And then there were the grandchildren. Harrison's 3 kids, Preston, Bethany, and Miles. Victoria's 2, Harper and Chase. All of them in their teens and 20s. All of them entitled, cruel, and completely lacking in ambition. Preston was arrested twice for DUI. Jonathan paid for lawyers, paid off the victims, paid for it all to go away. Bethany made headlines for throwing a $500,000 Sweet 16 party that ended with 6 people hospitalized and a hotel room destroyed. Miles was expelled from 3 private schools before he finally dropped out at 17. Harper and Chase were no better, chasing social media fame, spending money on luxury they didn't earn, treating people like props in their Instagram stories. Jonathan watched his legacy, his children and grandchildren, become everything he'd fought his whole life not to be. Entitled, lazy, cruel. They have everything and appreciate nothing, he told me one night. I gave them the world, and they became spoiled by it. Margaret tried to teach them better. I tried. But somewhere along the way, we failed them. Or they failed themselves. I'm not sure which anymore. It's not too late, I offered. They could still change. Could they? Or are they too far gone? He looked at me. You know what I realized, Claudette? You came from nothing. Lost everything in Katrina. And you work hard every day, treat people with respect, better yourself with education. My grandchildren have everything handed to them and they're miserable, useless people. So tell me, is it the having that ruins people? Or the having without earning? I had no answer. But I think he already knew. Subscribe if you're seeing the contrast. Comment earned versus given if you understand what Jonathan is realizing. This is leading somewhere huge. In 2019, something happened that changed everything. Jonathan had a health scare, a mini-stroke. Not serious, but enough to remind him of his mortality. He was 78 years old. Time was running out. I need to get my affairs in order, he told me while recovering. Make sure everything is handled properly when I'm gone. You have plenty of time, Mr. Whitmore, Jonathan. Margaret's been gone 7 years. And you still call me Mr. Whitmore. Call me Jonathan, all right. Jonathan better. He paused. I'm going to ask you something. And I need you to be honest. What do you think of my family? The question caught me off guard. Sir, Jonathan, that's not appropriate for me to. Claudette, you've worked in this house for 13 years. You've seen things, heard things. You know exactly who they are when they think no one important is watching. I'm asking for your honest opinion. I thought about all the times I'd been invisible, all the conversations I'd overheard, all the cruelty I'd witnessed. I think, I said carefully, that they've forgotten what matters. They measure everything by money and status. They don't see people, they see opportunities or obstacles. They're unhappy, and they try to fill that unhappiness with things that don't satisfy. And they don't realize that the more they have, the emptier they feel. Jonathan nodded slowly. That's what I thought. I just needed to hear someone else say it. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm going to do something that will make them very angry. But I need to know the truth first. About what they really think of me. About what they're really like when I'm not around to see it. What do you mean? I'm going to investigate my own family. He hired private investigators. The best in the business. For 2 years, they documented everything. Harrison's embezzlement from the company, millions siphoned into offshore accounts. His affair with his secretary while his wife was at home with their children. His habit of bribing politicians and falsifying reports. Victoria's shopping addiction, $2 million in credit card debt that Richard didn't know about. Her own affairs with multiple men. Her scheme to forge Jonathan's signature on documents transferring property to her name. The grandchildren were even worse. Drug use, fraud. One of them had been paying someone to take their online classes. Another had bribed their way into an Ivy League school. Every week, Jonathan would receive reports. Every week, his heartbreak deepened. I keep hoping I'll find something redeeming, he told me. Some evidence that underneath it all, they're good people who just made mistakes. But Claudette, his voice broke. They're not good people. They're not even neutral people. They're actively cruel. They hurt others for fun. They lie and cheat and steal, and they do it all while wearing the jewelry I bought them and driving the cars I paid for. I'm so sorry, Jonathan. Don't be sorry for me. Be sorry for them. Because I'm about to take away the only thing they care about. Drop a comment saying justice if you know what's coming. Smash that subscribe button because this inheritance twist is legendary. Keep watching. Jonathan called me into his office one afternoon in early 2021. Sit down, Claudette. I have something to discuss with you. I sat, nervous. In 25 years, he'd never been this formal with me. I'm changing my will, he said bluntly. I'm leaving almost everything to you. I stood up immediately. Absolutely not. Jonathan, I can't. Sit down. His voice was firm but not unkind. I sat. Let me explain. My family doesn't deserve this money. They've done nothing to earn it. They've squandered every opportunity I've given them. They've become exactly the kind of people I despise. And if I leave them my fortune, they'll destroy it. Destroy themselves, and hurt countless others in the process. But I'm just... Don't say you're just the maid. Don't you dare. You've been more family to me than my own blood. You stayed with Margaret when she was dying. You keep me company in this big empty house. You treat people with kindness and dignity. You work hard. You're getting your degree. Congratulations on that, by the way. Thank you. But I'm not asking your permission, Claudette. This is my money, and I'll leave it to whoever I damn well please. But I am asking you to accept it when the time comes, to use it wisely, to do good with it, to be the kind of person who shows the world that wealth doesn't have to corrupt. Can you do that? I was crying now. Jonathan, your family is going to contest this. They're going to make my life hell. I know. That's why I've spent 2 years documenting their crimes. Every affair. Every fraudulent transaction. Every bribe. Every lie. It's all recorded, documented, ready to be released if they contest the will. They can accept their $1 each and walk away quietly, or they can fight and have their dirty laundry aired to the world. Their choice. This is insane maybe. But it's my insanity, and I'm old enough not to care what anyone thinks anymore. He smiled. Besides, Margaret would have approved. She loved you. She'd be happy knowing you're taken care of. I miss her. So do I, every damn day. He handed me a folder. This contains information about the estate, my businesses, my investments. Robert Chen, my lawyer, will handle everything. But you need to start preparing, learning about what you're inheriting. It's not just money, Claudette. It's responsibility. I opened the folder. The numbers were incomprehensible. Billions, properties, companies, charities. I don't know the first thing about running a business empire. You'll learn. And you'll have advisors. Good ones. I'm making sure of that. But more importantly, you have something my family never had. Integrity. That's worth more than all the business degrees in the world. For the next 2 years, Jonathan quietly prepared me. He introduced me to his key advisors, the ones he trusted, the ones who weren't on Harrison's payroll. He taught me about the businesses, the investments, the properties. He showed me which charities were legitimate and which were scams run by relatives. Harrison has been embezzling for years, he told me. I've known about it, but I've been waiting, gathering evidence. When the will is read, he'll realize that if he contests, I'll have him arrested. Same with Victoria's forgeries. You're blackmailing your own children into accepting their disinheritance. I'm protecting you, and I'm giving them a choice. Take their dollar and disappear with their freedom, or fight and go to prison. It's more mercy than they deserve. He made me promise things. To donate to specific charities. To keep certain employees whose livelihoods depended on the estate. To never sell the house where he and Margaret had been happy. And one more thing, he said during our last conversation, 3 weeks before he died. Be kind to people. Never forget where you came from. Never forget that money is just paper and numbers. It's what you do with it that matters. Promise me. I promise. Good girl. He smiled. You're going to do great things, Claudette. I wish I could be around to see them. If you're emotional right now, you're not alone. Subscribe and hit that notification bell. Comment promise kept if you think Claudette will honor Jonathan's wishes. The will reading is next. Don't miss it. Back to the conference room, where we started. Jonathan's face on the screen looked at each family member in turn as his video message continued. Harrison, my son, I had such hopes for you. I thought you'd inherit my drive, my work ethic, my integrity. Instead, you inherited only my money and my name. You've embezzled $47 million from Whitmore Energy over the past 8 years. Don't bother denying it. I have every transaction documented. You've cheated on your wife with 6 different women. You've bribed city officials, falsified environmental reports, and put workers' lives at risk to save money. You're getting $1 because that's more than you deserve. Harrison had gone white. Around the table, people were staring at him. His wife, who hadn't known about the affairs, stood up and walked out. Victoria, my daughter, you forged my signature on 17 different documents, trying to transfer property to your name. You have $2.3 million in secret credit card debt from your shopping addiction. You've had affairs with your tennis instructor, your personal trainer, and 3 of Richard's business associates. You've lied, manipulated, and schemed your entire adult life. You're getting $1 because I'm feeling generous. Victoria was sobbing, real tears this time, tears of rage and humiliation. To my grandchildren, all 5 of you spoiled, entitled, useless wastes of potential, you get nothing. Not 1 cent. You've done nothing to earn it. You've contributed nothing to society. You're parasites wearing designer clothes. Preston tried to interrupt the video, shouting, but Robert turned up the volume. Now let me tell you about Claudette Johnson. She came to work for me and Margaret 27 years ago. She'd lost everything in Hurricane Katrina. She could have been bitter. She could have developed the same entitled attitude you all have. Instead, she worked hard. She treated everyone with respect. She took care of Margaret when she was dying, sat with her through the night, held her hand, gave her dignity in her final days. Something none of you could be bothered to do for more than 5 minutes at a time. On the screen, Jonathan's eyes got misty. Claudette worked full-time while putting herself through college. She earned her teaching degree. She volunteers at a community center on her days off, teaching literacy to adults who never got the chance to learn. She sends money to her mother every month, supports her brothers, and still manages to save for the future. She's done more with her modest salary than any of you have done with millions. He leaned forward, his gaze intense. That's why she's getting everything. Because she'll use it to help people. She'll honor Margaret's memory by being the kind of person we hoped you'd all become. She'll prove that wealth doesn't have to corrupt, that good people can have money and still remain good. Harrison found his voice. This is garbage. She manipulated him. She's a con artist who. If any of you contest this will, Jonathan's voice cut through the interruption, every piece of evidence I've gathered over the past 2 years will be released to the media and to law enforcement. Harrison, you'll go to prison for embezzlement. Victoria, you'll be charged with fraud. Preston, your DUI manslaughter case that I paid to make disappear will resurface. I've kept copies of everything. So ask yourselves, is it worth it? Is your pride worth your freedom? The room fell silent. Claudette, Jonathan said, and on the screen, he smiled. If you're watching this, I'm gone. But I'm not sorry. I'm at peace because I know Margaret would approve of this decision. I know you'll do right by this inheritance. You'll be scared, overwhelmed, doubting yourself. Don't. You're stronger than you think, smarter than they are, and infinitely better than they ever could be. Make me proud, girl, and say hello to your mama for me. The screen went dark. No one moved. Then Harrison exploded. This is insane. I'm contesting this. I'm Mr. Whitmore, Robert said calmly, pulling out another folder. I have here documentation of your embezzlement. 17 offshore accounts. Falsified company records. If you'd like, I can deliver these to the FBI office downstairs. They're expecting my call. Harrison's face went from purple to white. He looked at Robert, at me, at his sister. Then he grabbed his briefcase and stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. One by one, the others left. Some in tears, some in rage, some in stunned silence. Victoria was carried out by two cousins, still sobbing, until it was just me and Robert in the conference room. Miss Johnson, he said gently, I know this is overwhelming, but Mr. Whitmore prepared extensively for this moment. I have a team ready to help you transition. Financial advisors, legal counsel, business managers. You're not alone in this. I don't deserve this, I whispered. Mr. Whitmore believed you did, and having worked with this family for 30 years, I can tell you with certainty, you deserve it more than any of them. He handed me a key. This is to Mr. Whitmore's private study. There's a letter there. For you. From him. He wanted you to read it alone. Subscribe right now if your heart is pounding. Comment she deserves it if you're Team Claudette. One more part, the letter and the aftermath. Don't click away. I went to the mansion, my mansion now, though that thought was surreal, and stood outside Jonathan's study. The door that had always been slightly intimidating, that represented power and wealth and a world I didn't belong to. But now it was mine. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room smelled like leather and old books and Jonathan's cologne. For a moment, I could almost feel him there. On his desk was an envelope with my name on it and his handwriting. I sat in his chair, something I'd never dared do before, and opened it. Dear Claudette, if you're reading this, then my plan worked. She was just the maid until the billionaire's final words shocked his family. I went to the mansion, my mansion now, though that thought was surreal, and stood outside Jonathan's study. The door that had always been slightly intimidating, that represented power and wealth and a world I didn't belong to. But now it was mine. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room smelled like leather and old books and Jonathan's cologne. For a moment, I could almost feel him there. On his desk was an envelope with my name on it and his handwriting. I sat in his chair, something I'd never dared do before, and opened it. Dear Claudette, if you're reading this, then my plan worked. You're now one of the wealthiest women in America, and you're probably terrified. Good. Fear keeps you humble. Arrogance is what destroyed my family. I want you to understand something. This isn't a gift. It's a responsibility. It's a trust. I'm not giving you this money to make your life easier, though I hope it does. I'm giving it to you because you're the only person I know who will use it the way Margaret and I always wished we had. My children grew up with everything, and it ruined them. They never learned the value of work, of struggle, of earning what you have. You learned those things the hard way. That's why you can handle this when they couldn't. Here's what I need you to do. 1. Keep the house. Margaret loved this place. She's in every room, every garden, every corner. Don't let it be sold to strangers who'll gut it and turn it into something cold. This was our home. Now it's yours. 2. The Whitmore Foundation, the real one, not the fake charity Victoria runs, needs to continue. It funds literacy programs, hurricane relief, educational scholarships. It's Margaret's legacy. Protect it. 3. Hire good people. I've left you a list of advisors I trust. Don't let anyone take advantage of you. And don't be afraid to fire people who don't respect you. 4. Help your family. Your mother worked herself to the bone. She deserves to retire in comfort. Your brothers deserve opportunities. Give them what they need. But make sure they still work for their own dreams. Don't ruin them with money the way I ruined my children. 5. Stay yourself. The world is going to change around you. People will treat you differently. Some will resent you. Some will try to use you. Some will hate you just for having what they don't. But don't let it change who you are. Stay kind. Stay humble. Stay Claudette. 6. Forgive Harrison and Victoria if you can. They're broken people who never learned how to be whole. I failed them as a father. I gave them things instead of values. That's on me, not you. If they ever come to you needing help, really needing help, not just money, I hope you'll have the grace to help them. But don't let them manipulate you. 7. Live your life. Don't spend all your time managing money and businesses. Travel. Fall in love if you haven't. Laugh. Dance. Do all the things you couldn't do when you were too busy taking care of everyone else. 8. Teach. You wanted to be a teacher. Now you can be. Fund schools. Create programs. Teach classes yourself if you want. Don't let that dream die just because you're rich now. I know this is overwhelming. I know you're sitting in my study thinking I can't do this, but you can. You already have everything you need. Integrity, compassion, intelligence, and strength. Margaret loved you like a daughter. I came to love you like one too. And we're both so proud of who you are and who you're going to become. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being there at the end. Thank you for being yourself in a world full of people pretending to be something they're not. Take care of yourself, Claudette. And when you doubt yourself, and you will, remember this. I chose you not because you were perfect, but because you were real. With love and gratitude, Jonathan Whitmore. P.S. There's a photo album in the bottom drawer of the desk. Pictures of you, me, and Margaret over the years. Christmas dinners, Thanksgivings, quiet moments. You were family, Claudette. You always were. I opened the drawer with shaking hands. Inside was a leather album filled with photographs I didn't even know existed. Me and Margaret in the garden, both laughing. Me teaching Margaret how to make gumbo, both of us covered in flour. Jonathan, Margaret, and me on the porch at sunset. A photo from my college graduation. I'd worn my cap and gown to work that day to show Margaret, and she'd insisted on taking pictures. On the last page was a photo from Margaret's final week. She was in bed, weak but smiling. I was holding her hand, and at the bottom, in Jonathan's handwriting, "This is what love looks like." I sat in that study and cried. For Jonathan, for Margaret, for the family they'd wanted but never had, and for myself, the scared girl from New Orleans who'd lost everything and somehow ended up here, in this moment, holding the weight of billions and the lightness of being truly loved. Comment the letter if you're crying right now. Subscribe. The headlines called it the Cinderella inheritance, and from Maid to Billionaire. Every news outlet wanted to interview me. Every tabloid ran stories, some true, most false. I declined all interview requests. Let them talk. I had work to do. The first thing I did was secure the mansion, changed the locks, hired security. Harrison and Victoria had both tried to enter the property within a week of the will reading, just to collect personal items. Robert advised me to deny access until the legal dust settled. They didn't contest the will. The threat of exposure was too great. Instead, they took their dollars and disappeared from my life. Harrison moved to Monaco. Victoria divorced Richard, who'd filed first, actually, and moved to New York. The grandchildren scattered to various cities, living off trust funds from their mothers' families, complaining on social media about their abusive grandfather who'd left them nothing. I didn't respond, didn't engage, just let them spin their stories while I got to work. The Whitmore Foundation was expanded. We tripled our literacy program funding. We established a Hurricane Katrina Memorial Scholarship for displaced students. We built 3 community centers in underserved neighborhoods. Whitmore Energy was restructured. I brought in environmental consultants and shifted the company's focus to renewable energy. It cost money in the short term but was the right thing to do. Jonathan would have approved. The mansion became a living space and a learning space. I kept 3 floors for myself and my family. The rest was converted into a tuition-free school for adults completing their GED and college degrees. The library became a teaching space. The ballroom became a cafeteria. Margaret would have loved it. My mama retired. I bought her a house in Houston near my brother's. She cried when I handed her the keys. "Baby girl, this is too much. Mama, you worked 3 jobs to raise us. You broke your back so we could have better. Now it's your turn to rest." "I don't know how to rest." "Then learn. You've earned it." My brothers, Marcus and Jerome, both went back to school. Marcus is studying engineering. Jerome is in medical school. I'm paying for everything, but I'm making them work for it. Part-time jobs, volunteering, staying involved in their communities. Jonathan's warning about not ruining people with money stayed with me. I started teaching again. 2 nights a week, I teach literacy classes at one of the community centers. I'm not billionaire Claudette Johnson in those classes. I'm just Miss Claudette, helping adults learn to read, watching their faces light up when words finally make sense. That joy, that moment when someone reads their first sentence, is worth more than all the money in the world. 6 months after Jonathan died, I received an unexpected visitor. Harrison's oldest son, Preston, showed up at the mansion. He wasn't the cocky, entitled kid I remembered. He looked thin, tired, broken. Miss Johnson, I know I have no right to be here, but I need to talk to you. I almost turned him away. But Jonathan's letter echoed in my mind. If they ever come to you needing help, really needing help, not just money, I hope you'll have the grace to help them. Come in. We sat in the living room, the same room where the will had been read, where his family had screamed and raged. I'm an alcoholic, Preston said quietly. I've been drinking since I was 14, and using drugs since 16. My grandfather knew. He paid for rehab 5 times. I never stayed sober. I thought I didn't need to. I thought money would always fix everything. What changed? He died, and suddenly, the money was gone. The safety net disappeared. I hit rock bottom. I mean, really hit it. Homeless for 3 months. Sleeping in shelters. Stealing to eat. He looked at me with haunted eyes, and I realized, my grandfather was right. I'm useless. I've never done anything real. Never earned anything. Never been anything except his disappointment of a grandson. What do you want from me, Preston? A chance. Not money. A chance. I've been sober for 4 months. I'm working at a grocery store, stocking shelves. I've got a studio apartment that costs half my paycheck. And I want to go back to school. Finish my degree. Actually become something. He pulled out a piece of paper. I applied to community college. I got in. But I can't afford it. And I know I don't deserve your help. I know I was horrible to you. But I'm asking anyway. Because I don't have anywhere else to turn. I looked at this broken young man and saw something I hadn't seen before. Humility. Real, genuine humility born from suffering. The foundation has a scholarship program, I said carefully. For people who've overcome addiction or hardship, you'd have to maintain sobriety. We'd require regular testing. You'd have to maintain good grades. And you'd have to volunteer 20 hours a month at a rehab center, helping others. I'll do it. All of it. I swear. And Preston? If you relapse, if you fall back into old patterns, the money stops. This isn't a free ride. This is a hand up, not a handout. I understand. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you. He left, and I sat there wondering if I'd done the right thing. Wondering if Jonathan would approve. I decided he would. Because he'd given me a chance when I had nothing. Because grace was the lesson he'd taught me. Subscribe if you believe in second chances. Comment Preston if you think Claudette did the right thing. The final scene is coming. Don't miss it. Today is the 2-year anniversary of Jonathan's death. I'm standing in the cemetery where he and Margaret are buried side by side. I'm not alone. My mama is here. My brothers. And about 50 students from the adult literacy program. People who've completed their GED this year. People who've gone on to college. People who are building better lives. We're here because Jonathan's will had one final provision that Robert only revealed today. A time capsule. Jonathan had created a video to be played 2 years after his death. Robert played it on a tablet. All of us gathered around. Jonathan's face appeared on the screen, and my heart clenched. I still missed him. Still missed them both. Hello, Claudette. If you're watching this, 2 years have passed. I wonder what you've done with the inheritance. I wonder if you're happy. I hope you are. He paused, smiling. I imagine my family is still bitter, still complaining about their disinheritance. Let them. Their bitterness is their choice, not your responsibility. I'm making this video because I want you to know something. I never doubted you. Not for 1 second. From the day you walked into this house, nervous and desperate and determined, I knew you were special. Margaret knew it too. And we spent 27 years watching you prove us right. You were never just the maid, Claudette. You were family. You were the daughter we should have raised. You were the example we wished our children had followed. And you were the friend who stayed when everyone else left. I hope you've helped people. I hope you've stayed kind. I hope you've lived your life, not just managed mine. And I hope you've forgiven me for putting this burden on you. Because that's what it is, a burden. Wealth always is. But you're strong enough to carry it without letting it crush you. Take care of yourself, girl. And remember, this was never about the money. It was about proving that good people exist, that integrity matters, that one person, one act of genuine kindness, can echo through generations. Margaret and I are together wherever we are, and we're proud of you. So damn proud. Live well, Claudette. Live beautifully. And when your time comes, many, many years from now, I hope you can look back and say you made a difference. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being you. The screen faded to black, and I was crying again. But this time, they were good tears. Grateful tears. My mama squeezed my hand. He loved you, baby girl. I loved them too. One of my students, a woman named Patricia who'd learned to read at 65 years old, stepped forward. Miss Claudette, we wanted to do something for you. For Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore. Something to say thank you. She handed me a book. A handmade book filled with letters and drawings from every student who'd been through our program. Letters about how learning to read had changed their lives. How the scholarship program had given them hope. How the Whitmore Foundation had given them a second chance. We're all here because of you, Patricia said. Because you took what they gave you and made it matter. I opened the book, reading letters through my tears. I can read bedtime stories to my grandchildren now. I got my first real job because I could finally fill out an application. I'm going to college at 42 years old. I never thought that was possible. You changed my life, Miss Claudette. You gave me dignity. Page after page of lives changed. People helped. Hope restored. This was what Jonathan meant. This was what Margaret wanted. Not just the money, but what the money could do. I looked at their gravestones, side by side, together in death as they'd been in life, and made them a promise. I'll keep going. I'll keep helping people. I'll make you proud. I swear it. The wind rustled through the trees, and for just a moment, I could have sworn I heard Margaret's laugh. My name is Claudette Johnson. I was born in New Orleans to a mother who worked 3 jobs. I lost everything in Hurricane Katrina. I became a housekeeper out of desperation, and I inherited $2.4 billion because I did one simple thing. I treated people with kindness. Not because I wanted something from them. Not because I expected to be rewarded. But because that's how my mama raised me. This story isn't really about money. It's about character. It's about the difference between having things and being something. It's about how the richest people I ever met, Jonathan and Margaret Whitmore, weren't rich because of their bank accounts. They were rich because they knew what mattered. If you take one lesson from this story, let it be this. Kindness is never wasted. The way you treat people, especially people who can't do anything for you, that's who you really are. That's what matters. That's what lasts. Wealth can disappear. Status can change. But the way you make people feel? That echoes forever. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for more true stories that touch the heart and inspire the soul. Share this with someone who needs to hear that kindness matters. Comment below, what would you do with $2.4 billion? And remember, you don't need billions to make a difference. You just need a heart willing to care. This is Claudette Johnson, signing off. Stay kind, family. The world needs it.